The lecture hall was alive with brilliance, 10,000 beings seated in concentric tiers, scales, feathers, and metallic carapaces shimmering beneath the glow of a crystalline dome. Hollow equations hovered in the air, symbols twisting in hues of gold and silver, the language of higher physics displayed for all. The Intergalactic Academy of Sciences was less a school and more a cathedral, where knowledge was worshipped and worshippers demanded perfection. At the center stood Professor Kaler Vyarwayanen, his elongated frame draped in emerald robes that shifted with his every motion. His 4 eyes scanned the hall with serene command as his clawed fingers inscribed a glowing glyph onto the board of light. The equation expanded, symbols locking into place like celestial machinery. Gasps of awe rose from the crowd. This, Kaler intoned, voice deep and melodic, is the completed form of harmonic resonance in hyperspatial curvature. The culmination of 3 centuries of refinement. The unbreakable law that underpins our travel between stars. The audience leaned forward, entranced. Every student had waited cycles to witness the professor unveil his so-called perfect equation. Aidan Ross sat among them, his hands folded tightly on the smooth desk, heart pounding. The only human in the hall, his dark hair and earth-born features stood out like a blot of ink across a painted canvas of alien variety. He told himself to remain invisible, to observe, to learn. Yet as Kaler finished the final sequence, something in Aidan's gut twisted. The equation didn't balance. At first, he thought it was nerves. The cascade of alien symbols was dizzying even after 2 years of translation implants. He blinked, recalculated mentally. No, there was no mistake. A resonance term had been misaligned. Small, subtle, but enough to create instability under extreme conditions. He should stay silent. This was Kaler Vyarwayanen, whose papers had shaped galactic physics. Aidan's scholarship was already controversial. Humans had been admitted as observers, not equals. To interrupt would be suicidal. But the words slipped free. That doesn't balance. The hall froze. Then came the laughter, hissing, chittering, booming in multiple tongues. A few students slapped their appendages against their desks in cruel amusement. Kaler turned slowly, like a predator savoring its prey. His lips curled into what, on his species, passed for a smile. Repeat yourself, primitive. Aidan's throat tightened, but he forced his voice steady. The equation, your last resonance factor. It introduces instability. It doesn't hold under high-energy transitions. The laughter intensified. Kaler's robes shimmered darker. And what? He asked, each syllable dripping venom. Would a species that left its cradle scarcely a century ago know of hyperspatial harmonics? Aidan met his gaze. Math is math. It doesn't care what species writes it. The room erupted again, half in derision, half in outrage. Kaler extended a claw and with a casual swipe restructured the equation in dazzling speed, scattering dozens of correction glyphs across the holoboard. The audience gasped at the display of mastery. There. Kaler's voice thundered. Balanced. Correct. Beyond the comprehension of a planetary novice. Aidan clenched his fists under the desk. The symbols had been shifted elegantly, but the flaw remained. Kaler had buried it beneath needless complexity, dazzling the crowd into blindness. The lecture resumed, but Aidan heard none of it. His ears burned with humiliation as whispers slithered through the hall. The human thinks he understands physics. Barbarian arrogance. An insect correcting a giant. When the session ended, students surged out in colorful streams, some glancing at him with mockery, others with pity. Aidan walked stiffly to the exit, every step echoing in the vast chamber. He returned to his quarters, small, sterile, tucked in the outer ring of the station. The stars outside framed the dark void like cold spectators. He activated his personal console, replaying the lecture. The equation shimmered before him, and he stripped away Kaler's theatrics, isolating the offending sequence. Again, the imbalance surfaced. He ran simulations, the console's processors humming softly. Under normal conditions, the equation worked. But when energy thresholds spiked, exactly what occurred in high-risk hyperspace jumps, the resonance collapsed. Ships could destabilize, perhaps even tear apart. He rubbed his temples. Could Kayla truly have overlooked this? Or had he buried it, refusing to admit imperfection? Aiden's mentor back on Earth had once told him, "Genius is not seeing what no one sees. It's noticing what everyone else ignored because it seemed too obvious." The console beeped. Simulation complete. The data confirmed his suspicion. The correction wasn't trivial. It was necessary. Without it, thousands of ships were at risk. His breath caught. This wasn't just an academic quibble. This was life and death. The door chimed. A fellow student, a lithe Everin with translucent wings, peeked inside. Her compound eyes flickered uneasily. "Human. You spoke against Kayla today." Aiden braced himself. "Yes. Foolish. But," she hesitated, wings trembling, "I have seen anomalies in transit fields. Small but troubling. Perhaps your error is not entirely absurd." Her words were cautious, whispered like contraband. Then she vanished before he could respond. Aiden sat in silence, staring at the equation, his pulse thundering. He was no longer sure what frightened him more, the possibility that he was wrong, or the possibility that he was right. He saved the corrected sequence, encrypting it under Earth's mathematical notation, a language few in the academy bothered to study. Then he shut the console, leaned back, and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he would have to decide whether to confront Kayla again. And this time, the stakes would be higher. The next day, the academy's halls pulsed with whispers. Murmurs followed Aiden like an echo he couldn't escape. Beings of every form leaned toward one another as he passed, some chittered amusement, others clicked in disdain. A human challenging Kayla Vryn had become the day's entertainment. He ignored them, keeping his stride steady. He had not come to the academy to be liked. He had come to learn, and perhaps, to prove humanity's worth. The amphitheater doors loomed ahead, vast arcs of polished crystal. Inside, Kayla stood at the dais, already preparing another lecture. The hollow board blazed with glyphs, equations weaving into elegant chains. Aiden hesitated at the threshold. He could stay silent, absorb the lecture, and leave with dignity intact. Or he could try again, risk ridicule, and defend what he knew to be true. Truth over pride. His mentor's voice echoed in his mind. He entered, took his seat, and waited. Kayla's lesson unfolded with flawless rhythm, his voice commanding, his gestures like a conductor guiding symphonies of mathematics. Students hung on every word, recording every line. At last, Kayla paused, letting the silence linger before asking, "Are there questions?" It was an invitation to adoration, not challenge. Aiden rose. "Professor, with respect, your harmonic sequence remains flawed. The instability under high-energy thresholds cannot be ignored." The hall stiffened. Kayla's eyes narrowed. "You persist." "Yes," Aiden said. "Because the data persists." Laughter rippled through the chamber, sharp and cruel. Yet Aiden stood firm, palms sweating, heart racing. Kayla extended a claw, summoning a cascade of equations across the holoboard. "Observe," he said smoothly. "The resonance aligns when transdimensional coefficients are adjusted. A simple manipulation, child's play to anyone beyond a primitive education." He twisted symbols with dazzling speed, burying the flaw beneath layers of complexity. Students gasped, impressed. Aiden waited until the display ended. Then he spoke, clear and steady. "That manipulation introduces false harmonics. You disguise imbalance with clutter. It does not solve the problem, it hides it." The hall went silent. Kayla's voice dropped to a dangerous softness. "Step forward, human." Aiden descended the steps, each one heavier than the last. He approached the board where alien glyphs shimmered like burning constellations. "Demonstrate," Kayla demanded. Aiden lifted his hand, the translator implant adjusting symbols into forms he could work with. Slowly, he unraveled Kayla's embellishments, stripping away unnecessary terms until the core flaw reemerged, clear, undeniable. Gasps rose from the students closest to the board. "Here!" Aiden said, pointing. The resonance destabilizes under pressure. Unless corrected, it risks collapse. Kayla's claws twitched. And your correction? Aiden drew a counter-sequence, careful and precise. The glyphs glowed brighter, harmonizing into balance. This aligns. Stable, verifiable, replicable. The hall erupted, not with applause but with outrage. Voices clashed in a storm of disbelief. Kayla raised a hand, silencing the room. His smile was cold. Ingenious, in its naivety. You mistake illusion for truth. Your correction violates established constants. Were this valid, generations of physicists would have discovered it. Do you claim superiority over centuries of work? Aiden's pulse hammered, but he did not waver. No. I claim oversight. Arrogance blinds even the most brilliant. I see what was overlooked. Gasps again. Kayla's eyes burned. Return to your seat. Aiden obeyed, the weight of the moment pressing down like gravity. He had not won, but he had not been silenced. The lecture stumbled forward, Kayla's composure fraying around the edges. Students kept glancing at Aiden, some with disdain, others with cautious curiosity. When it ended, Aiden lingered until the hall emptied. He felt a presence behind him. You invite destruction, a voice said softly. He turned. The aberrant student with translucent wings stood there again, compound eyes reflecting the fading glow of equations. You believe me wrong? He asked. I believe you reckless, she said. But not entirely wrong. Hope flickered in his chest. Then help me. Validate it. She shook her head. To oppose Kayla is to risk exile. His word shapes the academy. Few dare question him. Then I'll do it alone, Aiden said. Her wings trembled. You may not survive alone. She left quickly, as though even speaking to him endangered her. Alone in the vast hall, Aiden clenched his fists. Doubt gnawed at him, but the numbers remained solid in his mind. He could not abandon the truth. That night, he crept into one of the restricted simulation labs. Security drones drifted past, their sensors blind to his borrowed access code, stolen from a sympathetic technician on Earth. He slipped inside, sealing the doors behind him. The lab was vast, filled with holographic arrays and model constructs of starship fields. He uploaded his corrected equation, setting the processors to test hyperspace transitions under extreme conditions. Light flared. Models shimmered into existence, ships diving into the void, resonance fields stretching, stabilizing. Not one collapse. Not one failure. Data streamed across the screens, proof undeniable. His correction worked. Exhausted but exhilarated, Aiden leaned against the console, whispering, We were right. The lab door hissed open. Kayla stepped inside. His presence filled the chamber like a storm. You trespass in forbidden ground, the professor said, voice low and deadly. Aiden froze. I needed to test the correction. Kayla's gaze swept the glowing models. His smile was thin, poisonous. So you falsified data to give your species prestige. How predictable. It isn't falsified. Aiden shot back. It's real. The equation works. Kayla's eyes gleamed. No one will believe you. And soon, you will find no lab, no console, no audience to hear you. You overstep, human. He turned, robes flowing like liquid shadow, and strode away. The console dimmed as access was revoked. Aiden's simulations vanished into black. He stood alone in the silence, fists trembling, heart racing. The truth was in his grasp, yet the walls of power were closing around him. For the first time, he realized this was no longer an academic dispute. It was a battle for survival. The Grand Symposium was the crown of the Academy's cycle, a gathering where scholars presented discoveries before the Concord's Council. The chamber stretched like an arena carved from light, tiers filled with thousands of beings, scientists, leaders, and dignitaries from across the galaxy. At its center stood the dais, glowing beneath the dome of stars. Aiden entered last, every step dragging the weight of failure. Since Kaler had revoked his access, Whispers had painted him a fraud, a human desperate for recognition. Yet the corrected sequence still burned in his mind, undeniable and clear. If he spoke today, it would be his final chance. Kayla stood already at the dais, robes gleaming, eyes bright with triumph. His reputation had weathered centuries, and now he intended to cement it. He raised his clawed hands, summoning the perfected equation above him in towering brilliance. "Behold," he declared, voice carrying through the chamber, "the foundation of hyperspatial stability. A law beyond contest." Applause rippled through the tiers. Aiden's chest tightened. He could stay silent and preserve what little dignity remained, or risk everything. He stepped forward. "Objection." His voice rang louder than expected. The hall quieted. Thousands of eyes turned, incredulous. Kayla's smile spread like a blade unsheathing. "The human returns. To embarrass himself again?" "I don't intend to embarrass myself," Aiden said firmly. "I intend to save lives." Gasps stirred. Kayla gestured mockingly. "Then enlighten us. Show the stars how Earth's fledgling children lecture their betters." Aiden walked to the auxiliary console. His hands shook, but his voice remained steady. "Your equation fails under extreme thresholds. Countless anomalies in hyperspace travel trace back to this oversight. The correction is simple, but ignored." Kayla laughed, the sound echoing sharp. "Claims without proof are noise." Aiden inhaled deeply. "Then let's test it. Now." The chamber erupted in voices, confusion, protest, disbelief. But the counselor presiding, a towering crystalline being, lifted a hand. "The human shall demonstrate." Kayla's expression faltered, then hardened. "As you wish." The console flared alive. Aiden uploaded his sequence, the glyphs rearranging into clean symmetry. He summoned a simulation, a starship plunging into hyperspace. The audience leaned forward as the ship's resonance field stabilized, enduring conditions that under Kayla's equation caused collapse. No failure. No instability. The chamber buzzed with shock. "Run it again," Kayla demanded. Aiden did. A second ship entered, energy spikes surging, yet the field held firm. Data streamed across the display. Mathematics made proof. Kayla's voice cracked. "Deception. He manipulates the system." The presiding counselor extended a crystalline arm. "We will test it in reality." A starship model was summoned from orbit, linked to the chamber's display. The correction was applied, its engines primed for a maneuver known to strain resonance dangerously. The ship leapt into hyperspace. The hall held its breath. Seconds passed. The vessel emerged intact, field steady, systems undamaged. Silence reigned. Aiden spoke softly, but his words carried. "This correction doesn't diminish your work, Professor. It completes it. Denying it endangers every traveler." Kayla's face twisted. He looked at the council, at the murmuring crowd, at the ship gleaming on the display. For the first time, his certainty cracked. "No," he whispered. "Impossible." The counselor's voice resonated like crystal struck by a bell. "Truth is not bound by pride. The human has shown clarity where arrogance blinded vision. His contribution is acknowledged." The hall erupted, not in laughter, but in astonishment. Some jeered Kayla, others studied Aiden with newfound respect. Kayla staggered back, his robes glowed dimming. "This cannot stand." The counselor's tone turned final. "It will stand. For truth survives ego." Aiden exhaled, the weight of weeks lifting from his shoulders. He had risked everything, and the proof had spoken louder than ridicule. Later, as the chamber emptied, the aberrant student with translucent wings approached. Her compound eyes reflected faint approval. "You did what none dared. You forced the truth into the open." "I only did what was necessary," Aiden replied. "Necessary," she repeated, her wings shimmering faintly. "Perhaps humanity is not so primitive after all." When she left, Aiden stood alone at the edge of the dais, staring at the stars projected above. For the first time, they no longer seemed unreachable. The galaxy had thought humans naive, unworthy of real science. Yet here he was, proof that even outsiders could change the course of knowledge. He whispered to himself, almost a vow. They said we knew nothing. But sometimes, not knowing is what lets you see. And in that moment he understood, the battle had never been about equations. It had been about courage. And humanity, underestimated though it was, had that in abundance.